With Shift 5 of the Deadlock Night Shift concluding, we have seen some pretty big shifts up in the meta, and I wanted to go over a couple of these as we take a look at what's changed in this last week. With the recent changes to Vindicta, we've seen a pretty big drop off on her going from picked or banned 6 times in Shift 4 to 0 times in Shift 5. This was mostly due to the fact that her tether range was further than what was indicated on the ability and could pull you in farther than what you could see. This paired with her crows had its duration reduced from 6 seconds to 4, made her fall out of the meta. And the opposite side of this boat, Bebop went from being picked or banned 0 times in Shift 4 to a massive 6 times in Shift 5. The Golem himself got some buffs in the form of beam range per boon as well as bullet damage per boon. This paired with the fact that he's still a highly disruptive hero in teamfights put him to the forefront of being played. Now let's move on to an item that had a massive uptick in popularity compared to previous weeks in DLNS, the Silence Wave. With gun damage being nerfed a little bit ago, we have entered a more heavy spirit damage meta, and this item deals with that perfectly. Beyond the fact that you can silence, you also reduce their spirit resist and their overall spirit power, making them do less damage and your team do more. What we will focus on here though is the active part of the item which silences enemies. A perfect example of how important this item has become is in the Buff Enjoyers vs Abraham's match back last week. In map 2, Saint on Kelvin did a phenomenal job using his dome to separate Buff Enjoyers and to pick them off.
They're alive for a bit longer. The Buff Enjoyers, they're going to go in his EP.
They're going on in, and is more of the same. The frozen shelter comes out, and we got Mo and Krill, Snazzy Duds and all just getting chopped once more.
Buff Enjoyers adjusted going into Mat 3 by putting Silencing Wave on their frontliners of Abrams and Lash, who are most likely to get caught in a dome, as well as having Mina picked for Obi-Kim with a silence being in the form of her ultimate. Not only did Buff Enjoyers make Saint's life a living hell, they also did the same to the likes of ABL, who was playing Pocket.
Yeah, with pressure coming into the shrines. Seth looking for the interruption. Here comes Nox Nostra over the top.
It's not the
bat
best.
Still piling out, and yeah, I mean, not the highest value, but still enough to find ABL.
And after DLNS finished, we sat down with Poshupop in the Graveyard Shift to actually talk about this item in particular, and this is what he had to say.
I think when I was watching the EU games, the Obaikim interview, I think they said something about, or he said something about silence waving. That's a new way to
say his name. I haven't heard that one before. Or
Obaikim, whatever it is, Obaikim, yeah. He said they said they used silence wave or something for the Kelvin Dome. That was the first time I've ever look, I'm not dissing NA or anything like that, but that is the first time I've ever heard someone think of purchasing an item. It just makes so much sense when you hear it. Buy silence wave to kill the Kelvin before he can't get off his dome. It's something so simple when you think about it, but it is actually so deep because no one's doing that. So that is just, I think that's one good example of how the game is revolutionizing every day. I mean, I think it's genius though. I think it's smart.
With the game being in closed alpha, it is obviously safe to say the game has not been figured out yet. This is just one of the examples of how the game is ever evolving and changing as teams take a look at the meta and form new ways to approach it. But I am really curious to see if we'll continue to see Silencing Wave picked up here for teams going into next week of DLNS, and we'll find out what's going to happen, and maybe something new will come out of the woodworks and shake things up once again. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure you guys like and subscribe here to Locked In.